phone, and also to log in on the comments for YouTube. That way I know who's here. So I'm looking at who will be taking the midterm. Good evening, good evening. A couple things I want to basically do before we start getting into tonight's class is that some of you are having a difficult time with downloading material. So remember, it is your responsibility to text me and let me know. I can send it to you by text. I can see because I'm using a Mac. So a lot of the things that I do will be done with the equivalent to Word, which is pages. So I would probably have to make it into a PDF file to send to you if you're on a PC. So if you're on a PC, there may be glitches on what you're doing, but you've got to let me know and we could try to resolve it the best way that we can. So that's what we're going to try to do. So here we are. We're at the halfway point. Hopefully you were able to download the reactionary paper on dangers of speed from last night's video. Hopefully you took away from that the big responsibility as a driver that you're going to have once you have people inside your vehicle. So don't take it lightly. Don't clown around. Be in control of your car. Watch your speed. But we do have to go over, I know you're so anxious to do the midterm, but actually we're going to do some content on parking before we get into the midterm, which will be at the halfway point of tonight's class. So let me click onto our PDF here. And let me just kind of step away here for a minute. I apologize. My dog just pushed open my door, and I didn't want to hear the TV that's going on in the other room. It's a little bit distracting. So what we're going to do tonight is take a look at the way that I teach parking. Now, parking is a technique of moving your vehicle amongst other parked vehicles or maybe into an empty parking spot with no cars around. So it's good to have a basic understanding of how to repeat a maneuver over and over again. So the way that I teach parking, it's echoing again. Thank you. Okay, gotcha. There, tell me if it still echoes now. I gotta unplug it from the back of the computer. That other computer tried to sneak in. Whenever I switch over from my picture to the PDF file that I'm using here, it defaults to my, it's good now. Awesome. Okay. So back to parking. Let me explain something. The way that I teach parking is different than probably another driving school teaches parking. It's a little bit different than what you would probably see in responsible driving. Parking, it's not a law. There are some things around parking that are laws, but the technique of getting into a parking spot, there is no right or wrong way. As long as you can do it consistently, go for it. You may like the way that I teach these parking maneuvers, and I hope that you get something out of it. But by no means, if you can do it differently, or if your parents have taught you how to do something, and it's something that you feel comfortable with and consistent with, by all means, continue on to do that. The only thing you have to remember about parking is it legal where I'm parking? So how you get into that parking space, there is no right or wrong, especially when it comes to the state. Now, of course, They want to make sure that you can open up your door, that you're in relatively straight. But when you start to turn, um, how quickly you get in, you got to be careful with that because they could look at that as being kind of aggressive. But what I'm trying to say is that there are multiple ways to get into a parking spot. So let's talk about the legal part of parking. So the first thing that I want you to write down is there are three definitions about stopping your vehicle to let people in or out of your car. Stopping, standing, and parking. We all know what parking is. Parking is when you get into a parking lot, you're between painted lines, you've turned your car off, and you've left your vehicle. You have parked your car. It is in the position of park. Stopping and standing gets to be a little bit more complicated. So here's a good definition. No standing means you stop to let people out of the car or pick someone up who is already there. But no waiting for someone or loading or unloading. Okay? Remember, it's as people only. No stopping is most restrictive. You can't stop at the curb for any reason than you can think of. Okay? And the reason why we don't want people in certain areas is we want to keep them open. We want our roadways, highways open. We want to block these areas. Or we don't want to be blocking these areas like in front of a supermarket where fire trucks may have to get access to the building. And remember that these laws will have a white sign with red lettering. Okay, it's going to be regulated by a white law sign. So no standing means you can stop to let people out or pick someone up who's already there. But no stopping is the most restrictive, and you should never be in that situation in your vehicle. So there's the color of the sign, white with red lettering. The other thing about this picture, the reason why I included it here, is that 90,000 vehicles are towed every year in Boston. That's a lot of cars. That is like probably the population of Portsmouth, Dover, and Somersworth combined. Everybody has their car towed for that particular year. And look at the bottom of the picture. It's expensive. The fee to get your car back after it's been towed, they take it to a facility, they lock it up, you cannot get it. It's $131. Now write this down. In Durham, they will tow your car or they will boot your vehicle. A boot is an orange metal plate that they attach to your vehicle from both sides. And your car cannot move because the tire cannot make a full revolution. You can't drive off with a boot on your vehicle. It's impossible. It just won't happen. Trying to do it would probably maybe ruin your vehicle. So be very careful of parking in places where they can tow your vehicle or boot your vehicle. Keeping your places clear. You can not park within 15 feet of a fire hydrant. It's illegal. And by the way, they bust out your windows, and guess who pays for the repair? You do. You've done something illegal, and this is why everybody's looking and probably taking pictures. It's probably going to be on YouTube or Instagram. Okay, you cannot put your vehicle in that position. So how close can you get to another car when you park? As long as you don't hit them, you can park as close as you want. But if you ever park this close, I will guarantee the person you're next to is not going to be very happy. This is actually a video. I don't have it where I can show it to you live, but this is, I believe, of a car wash, and these are the employees. So they don't mind parking. They just want to squeeze in as close as they can so they can get people in or out of the car wash. But they've done this a few times. You can tell. Okay. Very important to have the mirrors tipped in, or else you're going to bump mirrors. So here are some key points when parking. Okay, you need to know this. Move as far away from traffic as possible. So when they talk about a foot away, they're talking about how close you are to the curb. By being a foot or less, when you open up the driver's side door, you're not going to be a problem for other people driving by. Avoid traffic, which means check your rear view mirror, side view mirror, look over your shoulder, and then open up your door. Now, I'm going to show you in Europe what they tell you to do. In Europe, they tell you to cross over. So rather than use the hand closest to the door handle, they tell you to open up your door with the opposite hand because it makes you turn your body to look over your shoulder so you don't hit other cars that go by or bicyclists. Secure the vehicle, which means set the parking brake, lock your vehicle, and check traffic when you're getting out. And if you're in a manual transmission, the way that you tip your wheels, and I believe that's in the manual. Let's see if I can find it real quick. So all these parking maneuvers that we're talking about is on page 29. So if you want to look at page 29, that's going to be covering a lot of the information that we're talking about. And on 28 too. When you don't park close enough to the curb, and I thought this was kind of hard, kind of harsh. Someone in Somersworth went to Dover for breakfast and they parked their vehicle 18 inches away from the curb, so it's not a foot away. And they got a ticket. Even though they paid the meter, the parking person still gave them a ticket. So they wrote a letter to Foster's, and that's the article that I've got there. I've been using it for years. Durham has a parking officer. They're looking for people that are parked too far away and haven't paid the meter. So don't think just running in to get a grab of a bite of food to eat and then running back out, you're going to be okay, because they could be around and they're still going to ticket your car. I think I was driving with Ben today doing angle parking, and they were in the parking lot giving out tickets to people. So they're pretty good. Even though we're practicing, they're not going to harass us or give us a hard time. So just be aware of that. So what are some of the other things that you should remember? You must be off the paved or main travel portion of the road or your car will be towed. If you can't be seen, okay, put your hazards on. But you want to try to be seen for a distance of about 200 feet in both directions. So try not to stop on a hill, curve, or highway. So look for some other place to do your maybe talking on the phone, texting. So be very mindful of where you're stopping, because you just don't know how that's going to play into other people on the roadway, how they're going to be able to handle that. And parking lights should be used and not emergency lights. So let's talk about the two sets of lights here. Parking lights are when you're texting, talking on the phone, but you're well off the main portion of the roadway. Emergency lights, what I want you to put down in your notes, will call attention to you, and the police, if they're around, will pull over. So emergency lights means I need help. Please pull over and stop. I need your help. Because police officers will just drive by if you've got your parking lights on. So if you've left your vehicle and you're walking to get gas or to look for help, leave a note on your vehicle indicating when you're going to come back and what the problem is. Leave your phone number so they can get in touch with you if they think it's unsafe. They may tow your vehicle, and towing, as we said, it's expensive. And once again, I think I've mentioned this before. All these classes tend to kind of blend together after a while. This is why it's a good idea to have AAA. If you break down, they will help you with the tow. They will help you with changing a tire, putting fuel. They'll actually go get gas, bring it back. So if you're thinking about having your own vehicle, I would definitely think about also being a member of AAA because it's going to save you many, many headaches. Here are situations you cannot park alongside another parked vehicle. So double parking. Write this down in your notes. The only vehicle that can pull up next to another parked car and block them in is a delivery truck. They're basically given about 5 to 10 minutes to make their delivery. If you look at downtown Durham, near Durham House of Pizza, on that little stretch right there, beer trucks, Frito-Lay trucks, UPS trucks are constantly stopping in the middle of the roadway. And it's your responsibility to go around them when it's safe. And they can do that legally. They can't park, or you can't park on a sidewalk, in an intersection, on a crosswalk, on a bridge. These are what we call common sense situations. Any highway tunnel, any way that blocks or is a hazard to other people on the roadway, on any street where there's not enough clearance for other vehicles to get by, or in front of a driveway. These are what we say common sense, common sense. Okay, here are the ones that deals with numbers. I will tell you this is not on the midterm, but some of these will be on the final. So write these down. And they're on page 28 in the manual. So if you've got your manual, maybe highlight it. I'm a firm believer of highlighting. As I told you last night, anything that deals with fire will have a 5 in the number. So you cannot park within 15 of the fire hydrant. And I basically just showed you a picture of that. 20 feet of a crosswalk. Because drivers that are going through the downtown area need a little bit of time to see a person walking off the sidewalk onto the crosswalk as they come out into traffic. Because if you're going 30 miles per hour, you're going to need, 50 feet, 60 feet to stop. And being parked too close to a crosswalk just doesn't give you that line of sight that you need. 30 feet of a stop sign, yield sign, or traffic control, once again, same thing. Field of vision. Things are blocking your view. You have to be able to see. 20 feet on the fire station entrance, 75 on the opposite. I know there's not a 5 in the 20, but there's a 5 in the 75. And the reason why the number isn't consistent, 20-20 or 75-75, is that a fire truck is so large and its turning radius is so wide, it has to be more room on the opposite side of the roadway than on the same side. Same side, you can park a little bit closer. Your line of sight for traffic that's coming by is open enough that you can pick it up. But 75 is going to give that truck, as he's coming out at a good rate of speed, that luxury of making a good turn. Within 50 feet of the nearest rail. Okay, so these are all numbers. The only way you're going to remember it is just writing them down and studying them and studying them and studying them. So let's talk about handicap parking. And this is on page 28 in the manual. If we have a blue handicap sign or symbol on the pavement, you can't park in that spot. You cannot leave your car unattended. The fine is $250. The area just off to the left and to the right is called access aisles. And if you park in those areas, it's going to be $50 for the first, $100 on the second, $250 on the third. Now the question is, do I need to memorize these fines? No. There is only going to be $1 amount that I am going to require you to remember. And that's coming up next week. This I don't want you I just want you to be familiar with it's going to cost you money. So what does an access aisle look like? It's off to the right or left, as I just said, of the handicap spot. And it's usually a crossed hatched yellow or white diagonal line. And you can see it in the diagram on page 28. It's for people in wheelchairs as they uh, get into the van. They're going to have a lift and they need that area. What can you do if someone takes a handicap spot? Okay, a lot of people now are sending pictures. You can actually call the police, or you could take a photo and send it along with a written statement of what you saw. And by the way, a lot of people abuse this privilege of handicap parking. We need to keep these spots open for people that really need to use them. Okay, let's talk about backing. Now, I made a quick little video. I'm not going to show you this one. This was a video of an older person that backed out of a driveway, and no lie, it took them over a minute. I've taken probably half of you out to drive your second time, and we've done backing. And you know we practice backing to the right and we practice backing to the left. So for those of you that haven't driven with me where we've done our backing up lesson, I'm going to show you what we're going to basically do. So I did a video. I've only done 3 videos with parking. I've done backing, perpendicular parking, and parallel. I still haven't made a video for angle parking and backing into parking spots. My son is my cameraman that helps me with taking some of these pictures. He helps fly my drone. He's off to college, so I haven't been able, and I've been so busy with driving this summer since the COVID thing, I haven't been able to get back out and do any more videos. But please let me know if you like these videos. I do have them on my YouTube channel, so if you like it, maybe even like tonight's class, if you think these videos are helpful, because at any point after tonight you forget some of the things that I tell you, especially on backing, perpendicular, and parallel, you can go back to the YouTube channel and see these videos. So let me show you the one on backing. So you get the idea of backing. So let me just kind of briefly just explain what I showed you here. And I didn't do any narrative. I'm just trying to do more of a few words just to prompt people of what to do. I don't want it to be too overloaded. And I kind of like listening to music with videos. So hopefully you got something out of that and liked it. So let's talk about backing. When you're backing out of a driveway, you've got to remember, if you drove into the driveway, you're going to have to back out of it. So always put your car in a place to be successful of getting back out into the roadway. Notice the little clip that I showed you where the car went to the middle of the road and it took up both lanes. That's done wrong. You should be able to end in your lane correctly. That is something the state would be looking for. Okay? When they tell you to back to the right, they're talking about the back of your vehicle going to the right. Same thing with left. So know your right from your left. How do you get to the end of your driveway? Use your mirrors, look over your shoulder, but always, and this is why I put this in bold type, stop at the end. And you could, if you look back at the video, I always look both ways before I went out into traffic. They're looking for that. And make sure you end in the correct lane of traffic. You should. A roadway is so wide. It's not like a parking space. You should always end in your lane straight. So that's backing. Now, angle parking is the easiest of all parkings. And I had a few of you do angle parking today. It doesn't matter whether you go left or right. It's usually just as simple in both directions. It's usually found in downtown areas like Durham and Dover. Fast food restaurants have it because you enter one way, go around the building like the drive-through, and then you leave. But remember, angle parking, you always go in one direction. So approach from the middle or slightly opposite the direction that you're going to park. Think of it this way. So write down your notes. With all types of parking, stay as far away from the parking spot you want to take. You want more distance. And we're going to see that in a video with perpendicular in a minute. When do you start turning your wheel? You start turning when your side mirror is even with the first line of the parking spot you're going to take. You should be able to see the whole entire parking spot. Once you start going into that parking spot, when you're halfway in, straighten the wheels halfway through and work on positioning. Backing up, back up halfway out of your parking spot. Look for both directions for traffic. And by the way, I find in a parking lot, sometimes it's more difficult to get out than to get in. Because if you've got a lot of vehicles that are traveling up and down the lane or cars that are backing out, you may lose sight of people that are doing their backing out. Usually when you're looking forward and knowing the spot you want to take, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Okay, perpendicular parking. I'm not going to even go over this because the video that I did for perpendicular is so thorough that I'm not going to go over this because I do talk through perpendicular. So let me show you the perpendicular video. It's about 10 minutes long. One of the problems with perpendicular parking, it's the approach. Most people don't understand or they forget that it's two-way traffic. So you should always be in the correct lane as you approach. If you try to cheat to go into a parking spot early, you're bound to cut off your lines and your angles. When parking to the left, you should be as far as you possibly can at the end of the painted lines of the parking spots that are next to you. You should look out your side window. You should line up your shoulder with one of the parking lines. If you take a look out the window from the driver's seat, your shoulder will be lined up with a parking line prior to the parking spot that you're going to be taking. The front bumper is now even with the first line of the parking spot you'll be parking in. Put on your signal, lightly let go of the brake, and gradually turn the wheel to the left. You still should be able to see the left parking light underneath your side mirror as you start to approach into your parking spot. Once you are straight, straighten up your wheel and go to the end of your parking spot. As you approach into your parking spot, use the lines of the parking spot in front of you to help center yourself in your parking spot, making sure that you do not go through the end line into the parking spot in front of you. Here's a car that is going in the middle of the traveling lane, starting to turn the wheel before the front bumper gets to the first line. So you're coming at an angle. You're probably cutting off a little bit of the left line, and you're turning extremely sharp to get into your parking spot. Now you're in your parking spot, you're parallel to your lines, but if there were parked cars, you would have a problem. Now we're approaching the same parking spot, but we're going beyond the shoulder line, beyond the bumper with the first line. Now we're going to go far over into the right side of a parking spot, backing into the left spot, and now you're in your parking spot. Very close to the right side of the line of your parking spot. Plenty of room off to the left. It doesn't look that bad from the outside, but if there was a car to the right of us, we would have hit it. So let's just kind of go back and do each of those maneuvers and set up cones with a piece of wood and see if we would have hit cars. Okay, what we've done is we've set up some safety cones with a thin piece of wood to simulate where a side of a vehicle would be. We're basically about a foot off the line on either side. One of the problems with a vehicle, it does give you a reference as you pull in. Now we're going to lose these cones as we go into our parking spot, and that's very common for a new driver. They lose sight of what is to the left or the right of the vehicle because they're focused so much onto the front part of the car. So let's get in the car and take a look at not having good angles coming into your parking spot. I'm approaching from the middle of the traveling lane. I'm going to start my turn a little bit early. This is a common problem for most people. They try to get in at the very top of the white line, and then they find that they're going to hit the car to the right, so they turn real sharp to the left. Now you notice that we didn't hit the cones, but we are on the line to the left of our parking spot. Never want to hit a car again. This time we're going to go a little bit beyond the shoulder line, the bumper with the first line of your parking spot. So this is going to be a late turn into a parking spot. So here we are turning very, very lately. As you see, hitting the cone, hitting the wood. It would have been a car. If you have a new driver, you don't have a safety brake where you could stop the car. You've just had your first crash. Let's talk about one of the most difficult things of perpendicular parking. Maybe not so much getting in, but a lot of people forget that they've got to get out of their parking spot. And a lot of times when you're going to be backing to the right, now you can back to the left or to the right out of a perpendicular parking spot, but here's a person that only looks to the right, doesn't look to the left, and starts turning the wheel way too early. Notice, hits the piece of wood. That would be scraping up on the side of a car. You now have another crash because you don't focus your attention to the front of the vehicle. Let's go back in and do it the right way. Okay, let's talk about how to get out of a parking spot correctly and safely. You have a choice. You can back to the left or you could back to the right out of a perpendicular parking spot, so it doesn't matter which way that you go. I prefer always backing to the left because it's going to be a wider turn. It's not going to be quite as sharp as the one to the right. But the most important thing to remember about backing out of a perpendicular parking spot is to have your rear view mirror and your side view mirrors adjusted, because even though you're focusing your attention to the right or to the left, what could be coming down the traveling lane, you got to remember there are parked cars behind you in a busy parking lot. And if they're backing out at the same time that you're backing out, and they're not looking at you and you're not looking at them, you are now on a crash course and you're going to hit each other. So my recommendation for backing out of any parking spot is to go out left, right, check, go out 6 inches, stop, look again, go out a little bit further, check, check. When you see that no one's coming and you're halfway out would bring your body to the end of the painted parking lines on either side. No one's backing out of a parking spot. No traffic is coming down in either direction. You now can perform your maneuver to the left. So we're going to turn sharp to the left, and that is going to bring us way over onto the left side of the parking lot. Then we can straighten up. You may not be able to get fully straight, but at least you're not going to be hitting a car backing out of a parking spot. Let's take a look at what it would look like if you were to back out from the right. So let's go back into the parking spot. We line up our shoulder with the line prior to the parking spot that we want. We check our rear view mirror, no traffic's coming towards us. We start our turn, we do hand over hand for a quicker, smoother turn. We're coming into our parking spot, we're almost completely straight. We use the lines in front of us. We straighten up our wheel. We go the rest of the way in, trying to get equal space on both sides. So let's back to the right. So putting on your signal, looking both directions, going out 6 inches or so, checking, going out a little bit further, because if there was a car coming, they'd see your backup lights and they would stop to let you out. Now we're at the very end of the painted lines to the right and to the left of us. We are now going to gradually turn to the right till we cleared the car to the left, and now we turn the rest of the way. But notice you're not going to be able to get straight because you have to back out halfway. This is when you put it in drive, you straighten up your car, and you get over into the correct side of your traveling lane. Now for the most difficult way to perpendicular park is to the right. The reason being is traffic is supposed to stay over to the right. But in order to get into that parking spot between the cones, I have to bring my vehicle all the way over as far as I can to the end of the painted lines to the left of me. I am still going to line up my shoulder with the line of the parking spot prior to the parking spot that I want. I put on my signal, and now I start my turn. Hand over hand. Notice I'm not going to hit the cone to the left, which is very common. I wait till I'm straight, and I straighten up my wheel. I approach my parking spot to the furthest point to the left. I line up my shoulder with the line prior to my parking spot. I hesitate. I let go of the brake. I go hand over hand. Watch that I don't hit the cone with the wood. That would be a car. I straighten up my wheel. And now I'm perfectly centered in my parking spot. I approach my parking spot as far to the left as I possibly can without getting too close to the cars that are to the left of me. I line up my shoulder with a line prior to the spot that I want. I hesitate for a moment. I let go of the brake. I go hand over hand. Notice the left corner is not getting too close to the cones on the board where there would be a car. I wait till I'm straightened up. And now I'm centered in my parking spot, making sure that I don't go too deep. Okay, now we're going to back out of the parking spot. Most people that park to the right will have a tendency to want to back out to the right. So what they normally don't do is they don't use your signal. You got to remember, when you use the signal coming out of a parking spot, it gets people attention. A lot of people say, why do I have to use my directional with backing out of a parking spot? There is no guessing which way the car is going. They see the backup lights, they see the directional, it gets their attention. You don't want people to be backing up the same time that you are. You don't want people going around your vehicle while you're trying to get out. So you look over your right shoulder if you're backing to the right, you look both ways, you go out about 6 inches. You want people to see your backup lights, your directional. If no one's coming by and you can't see, you're going to go out a little bit further. When you're about halfway out, you're going to start to slowly turn to the right. Notice we're no longer going to hit that piece of wood. Now we're going to be a little bit crooked, but what we do is we stop, we straighten up our wheel, and we pull over to the correct side of the road if more traffic is going to be coming down the parking spot. Okay, cones are much cheaper than cars. These are I have no idea why it just clicked like that, but I guess that's all I had because I copied it off my iPad because it is a YouTube video, so if you wanted to see it. It's pretty involved. It's really the first video that I did. Even before I knew that I was going to be doing classes online, I did getting ready to drive and I did perpendicular because I think perpendicular parking to do well, is probably the hardest type of parking. I think it's harder than parallel parking to do well. And I'll show you when we talk about parallel parking, I'll show you the video that I did for that. It's a lot like what I did with backing, trying to keep it a little bit more lighter and a little quicker. So let's kind of get into parallel parking. As long as you practice it, it usually does get better. It's the people that shy away from it. They don't ever practice it, so they avoid it. And people are really, really bad. I want to show you one person. This is a clip that I got from YouTube about how bad. And this person is so bad that they actually hit the car behind them and there's someone in the vehicle. And rather than going out and apologize and to take a look at damage, she drives away. So let me show you the bad parking spot job. So let me just kind of critique what she's doing. Her angle,
Oh my god. Is she serious? Or she's giving up?
I hope she's trying to turn around now.
No, she's not.
No, she's gonna hit the truck. Yep, she hit us.
Wow, this bitch is dumb, dude.
Did you feel that?
Yeah.
She hit us.
Yeah, you feel it as soon as she... That's why her fucking car's all dented up on the side, because you don't know how to fucking drive. She hits us again. She's gonna go tell her something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
never happened. So that's someone that doesn't really know how to parallel parking. And there are different ways to do that. So let me kind of explain it, and then I'll show you the video. Stop before your empty spot. The reason being is that if you've got cars right behind you, if you pull up in front of your empty parking spot you want to back into, people will follow you, and then they'll block that empty spot and you won't be able to get in. So pull about 2 feet side by side with the car that you're going to be backing around. You back up until your back seat is even with their back bumper. You turn to the right, and really it's really mirror to mirror is what I use now. And you try to create a 45-degree angle. And when you create a 45-degree angle, you'll be pointing to the back corner of the parking spot. So now you want to back up straight. And you want to back up straight until you're about a foot away from the curb. And the right side mirror is the key with parallel parking, the way that I teach it. If you've got that side mirror down, you're going to do well, okay? Once you're about a foot away from the curb, then you turn the wheel sharp to the left. And then if you have to readjust, then you can readjust. So let me show you the parallel parking video that I did. So just remember 3 steps to parallel parking. So write this down. Parallel parking should be done turning all the way to the right, backing up straight, and then turning all the way to the left. So it's right, straight, left. So remember, right, straight, left. Okay, let me show you the video. Let's take a look today at one of the hardest driving maneuvers, parallel parking. Three easy steps to parallel parking: right, straight, and left. What's so hard about parallel parking? With a little bit of practice, anybody can do it. Parallel parking really isn't that difficult. So once we go out and I explain these 3 points again, it will really, bring to light what we just saw there in the video. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay, write down, pull past back in a perpendicular spot. This is the last type of parking that we're going to be doing in driver's ed. Once we've covered this type of parking, all the different maneuvers for parking will have been covered. So the state can't throw anything at you. So basically what you want to do is you want to stay about 3 to 5 feet away from the end lines of a perpendicular parking spot. And you want to go 3 parking spots up. So go up 3 lines. Set your side mirror down, just like we did with parallel parking back there, because we want to see where we're going. You can use your backup camera, but not every car is going to have a backup camera, so your side mirror is going to be really, really beneficial. Use your turn signal, your right turn signal, and now you're going to back up slightly from that 3rd line. Your back bumper is going to be just before the line of the spot you're backing into. So when you think you are at that point, you're turning the wheel as sharply as you possibly can. So turn your wheel sharp to the right. Use your side mirrors to guide you until you're parallel with the lines on both sides, left and right of your vehicle. You straighten up your wheels at that point, and then you back in the rest of the way. So that's backing into a perpendicular parking spot. Go 3 lines up, put your right signal on, tip your side mirror down, go back so your back bumper is just before the line that you're turning into. Turn the wheel sharp to the right. Once you're halfway into your parking spot, make minor maneuvers. All right, before we get into the midterm, I do want to talk about tomorrow. Chapter 15 is your homework. Do the questions and read section 10 in the manual. All right, so we're going to spend the whole class tomorrow talking about going off the pavement, flat tires, losing power steering, power brakes, things that may happen. Usually if you keep your car properly maintained, some of these things won't happen, but we're going to go over that stuff tomorrow. That's tomorrow's class. The midterm will be corrected after you take it. So there is a link on the Facebook page. I will give you the, I'm going to type in the password right now. So hold on just a second. The password is halfway. So when you go to the link, okay, on Facebook page, the password to get into the midterm is halfway. If you have a problem, you need to text me because I'm going to be turning this off. I'm not going to stay online while you take the test. So if you've got any questions, do it, the test on a laptop, and then text me any questions that you may have. 30 of it is going to be on signs. The rest of it is going to be from information that you've got from the textbook, the manual, and from class. And a lot of questions might have to do with a few of the videos and just some situational things that we've gone over. So I want to see what you're retaining up to this point. So good luck on the midterm, and we will see you tomorrow. Good luck.